Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. A very interesting article here talking about Bakhmut. Now, I know there's a lot of information about Bakhmut lately, which actually its spot as the hottest spot on the Ukrainian front was taken by Avdiivka and Marinka in the past week or so. It seems like the Russians were able to take over the center of the town and the western side of the river that crosses Bakhmut from north to south. I have here an article from Fox News from a few hours ago talking about giving us an update on Bakhmut situation. And remember, if the Americans are saying that Bakhmut is kind of like, that means that things are 3 times worse than they report. That's how I learned during my experience with covering the media, especially during times of conflict. So let's get it started with this article coming from, as I said, Fox News, and this is from April 7th, 2023. Russia threatens Ukraine eastern supply lines as it has likely seized Bakhmut town center, UK intel. Now, if they tell you that, that's bad. So, Ukraine has not acknowledged any Russian takeover of Bakhmut. Russian forces are targeting a key supply route for Ukrainian troops and have, and I'm quoting, likely seized the center of Bakhmut after more than 6 months of brutal fighting over the town, the UK Defense Ministry said Friday. Russian troops, largely led by Wagner mercenary forces, have been attempting to encircle the town to pinch it from the north and south, and on Wednesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he would pull their forces from the area if that threat become too great. And I'm quoting, in recent days, Russian forces have regained some momentum in the battle for Bakhmut. And since late March 2023, their advance have largely stalled, end quote, the ministry said in its daily intelligence assessment. And I'm quoting again, Russia has made further gains and has now highly likely advanced into the town center and has seized the west bank of the Bakhmutka river. All right, so that's affirmative, has seized and highly likely advanced into the town center. So this is what's going on in Bakhmut at this time, and again, this comes from the UK, the British intelligence, which you can believe. Now, what would be the UK intelligence interest in lying to us in this one? I don't think they would have any. On the contrary, they should say, well, the Ukrainians are still fighting and pushing the Russians back. This is how a lying Ukrainian British intel would sound like. And the Russians are losing 30,000 people per second. Prigozhin is already in Vladivostok running with his money. This would be an intel coming from the British intelligence, right? And a little report. But for them to come and tell us, hey, actually, the situation is worse than that, and highly likely the Russians took over the center of the town and they already crossed on the western side of Bakhmutka river, that's bad. I think the Ukrainians are on the last leg in their last leg over there in Bakhmut. If the Russians are already there, remember, if you don't remember, the Russians, as the British intel report suggested, which is a fact, the Russians also say that, so here is where they agree. The Russians were able to advance north of the town and south of the town. The only thing that they have to do is just do like this, and that's it. Bakhmut is surrounded, is encircled. about 2 weeks ago, maybe more than 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago actually, the Ukrainians reported that they can retreat out of the town only during the nighttime and in groups no more than 5, maybe to 10 people, because the escape routes or the supply lines are under Russian shelling capability. So then during the day they are seen and bombarded. The situation is bad over there. I don't know exactly what these guys are doing in Bakhmut, but well, I don't have the knowledge of what's going on over there, but should be some strategic gain in both sides. Remember, when the Russians started to attack the town, the Ukrainian, the Americans, and the British, all three of them said, well, it's such an unimportant strategic point. We don't know why the Russians are getting engaged in attacking Bakhmut. And the Russians said, no, if we do that, everything is open towards the rest of Donetsk Oblast. And all of a sudden, the Ukrainians supposedly, or not supposedly, but reportedly, they said it, they put everything they had over there, including the chicken, the kitchen sink. So it must bear some importance on both sides. It's just that, when you're losing, unimportant. When you're winning, well, that was the most important victory we had since the war started. Not both, all sides lie. All right. So let's don't pretend here that we look at the Ukrainians and tell us the truth, or we look at the Russians. We just have to, as I make this analogy on many occasions, imagine that you are too much heroin, and imagine that you are about to walk through a very narrow corridor or a street, and it's dark, there's no lights, and there's people who took some doo-doos over there all along that little, let's say 20 yards, all right, 60 feet long, dark street, or how we want to call it. Imagine you have to go through that, and there's shits over there, and if you just jump, and maybe I don't step in one or two, and at the end you just look down and say, oh Jesus Christ, God damn it. Well, that's how I feel when I read these pieces of news from all sides. I'm like, these are like shits that I have to dodge and jump and bing from one side in one foot and then another one and all that. That's how I have to try to figure things out and say, okay, this is too much BS. This is impossible. Okay, this contradicts this one. Go deeper and find out over there and so on. And obviously, I step on doo-doo all the time because, the information we get is already given by this, and they all lie. And, we're not there to really see what's going on. And we just have to work with what it's been given to us. So, in this case, I'm pretty sure Bakhmut will fall. Unfortunately, people lose their lives over there, and Bakhmut is going to be destroyed, and eventually the town will be encircled and the people will surrender, I hope, like they did in Mariupol, wasn't it, in Azovstal. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.